Hello everyone, I'm Brian and welcome back to the last and third part. Let's go ahead and get started.
Or God is my master. So Hanuman, who served Ramachandra, Sri Ramakrishna practiced that too. At one time, the mood of Hanuman came on him. So Hanuman is, of course, a monkey. So Sri Ramakrishna would started spending time on tree branches, and he would tie his dhoti in such a way that it would be like a tail, and he would hop from tree to tree, and he ate fruits whole. And in a deep voice, he says, I became very restless like a monkey, and my eyes would be bloodshot, red and bloodshot, and I would sit on the branch of a tree, and in a deep and hoarse voice, I would cry out, Rama. He had a vision of Rama. He had a vision of Sita. He saw this wonderful, glorious form, he said, not like a goddess with supernatural attributes, but like a human being, but definitely deeply spiritual and radiating a kind of divine sorrow. And he says he realized that must have been Sita, and Sita, he was about to fall at the feet of that vision when that vision merged into his body. Sri Ramakrishna would say that she had the most wonderful smile, sorrowful picture, but most wonderful, the sweetest smile that he had ever seen in his life. And Swami Saradananda remarked that when Sita merged into his body, he got that smile because his smile was the most amazing thing that people had seen. One picture is there where he's smiling. You can see that, one of the pictures which was taken of him when he was in ecstasy. He practiced that. He practiced the Vatsalya Bhava, God as child, when the wandering monk Jatadhari came, who worshipped God as the baby Rama. He had a little image of Ram Lala. Ram Lala is Rama as a child, as a baby. And Sri Ramakrishna and Jatadhari could actually see Rama as a baby, not like a little image. He would worship the image, but he would actually get the vision of the baby Rama. And Sri Ramakrishna also could get the vision of baby Rama. In fact, when Jatadhari, the monk, came to and stayed with Sri Ramakrishna in Dakshineshwar, the child Rama began to spend time with Ramakrishna and refused to go to Jatadhari. And finally Jatadhari realized who Ramakrishna was, and he gave that image, his most precious possession in the world, that little image of the child Rama, he gave it to Ramakrishna and said, from now on, the child Rama told me that he wants to stay with you, so it will be with you. And that image was with Ramakrishna until about just over 100 years ago. It was in the temple of Dakshineshwar. Many people have seen it. But about 100 years ago, it was stolen. It was stolen. So he practiced that attitude also.
It would have been nice to have like a museum, like a museum of, I guess, a lot of the ancient things that are from the avatars, or even of gurus, very famous gurus that help people. It'd be nice, like, to go to a temple to go see all these artifacts and stuff, but I mean, as a matter of fact, I read a story somewhere where I think it's at the Vatican that there's a group of people, I think it's Americans, went in there and started damaging their art and stuff. And they're not duplicates, they're the legitimate thing, like statues and stuff. They knocked them over. But from what I read, it said the damage was minimal, but nonetheless, these are one-of-a-kind ancient artifacts. I certainly hope that that they found this picture and put it back. I mean, I don't know whether they sold it for worth or whether they kept it because they felt something about it. But yeah, it'd be nice to bring. It kind of sucks. Like, if you want to show some ancient things, you have to put it behind lock and key, and put a glass there so that no one will touch it. Because you can't trust people. It sucks. It's nice to see the things, but yeah, I mean,
that I am the parent and God is my child. The other attitude of God is my lover, like Radha and Krishna. Sri Ramakrishna also practiced that. At that time, he wanted to dress up as a woman. And Mathur Babu provided him with a beautiful sari and a wig and jewels. And Sri Ramakrishna got absorbed in the wild yearning of the gopis for Krishna. He prayed to Radha that as an intermediary, that I may have the vision of Krishna. He had a vision of Radha, he had a vision of Krishna. So that was another period in his life. Mathur Babu understood. Many others did not. So it was again another kind of, he's crazy. He's dressing up as a woman. And he was so convincing that even women couldn't recognize that he's a man. So at this time, the second great teacher came into his life. A completely different kind of teacher. So this was Totapuri, who was a monk in Adi Shankara's monastic lineage. In Adi Shankara's monastic lineage of the non-dual Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta. They are monks. They have about 10 orders. The 10 orders of monks, like Saraswati and Puri and Giri and Bharati and Tirtha and so on. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's guru, Ishwar Puri. So Puri. Totapuri belonged to that lineage. And in fact, because of that, we as monks of the Ramakrishna order, we all belong to the Puri lineage. Totapuri, Ramakrishna Puri. So if you want to tell the whole full name, so it should be Vivekananda Puri. It should be Sarvapriyananda Puri. I have earlier told you the funny story of how in the Himalayas, we normally don't write the whole name, but in the Himalayas, once I met this Naga sannyasi who, like Totapuri. Totapuri, by the way, would go move around nude. Either he would have a loincloth or he would move around nude completely. And so Sri Ramakrishna would call him the naked one, Nangta. Because the convention is you don't call your guru by name. So you have to elliptically refer to your guru. And Sri Ramakrishna, frankly, would call him the naked one.
It was fitting.
So this monk I met, a Naga sannyasi in Gangotri, I asked him, what's your name? And he said, Purnam Giri. Giri is one of the 10 orders. And he asked me, what's your name? I said, Swami Sarvapriyananda. And he flew into a fury. And he said, where is the puri? Sabji ke saath kha gaya. Did you eat it with your vegetables? So puri has another meaning. It's the flattened, fried bread. Yes, that's what a puri is. Everybody in India, it's a very common kind of food in India. So that's the other meaning of puri. So he was playing on the words. He said, what happened to the puri? Did you eat it up with your vegetables? I had to say, no, it's Sarvapriyananda Puri. In fact, Vivekananda himself made a play on this. Somebody asked him, Swami Vivekananda, Swami, are you a Puri or a Giri? What kind of monk are you, a Puri or a Giri? And this works only in Bengali. It's hopeless to try to translate it also. Are you a Puri or a Giri? And Vivekananda said, Konotai noi, ami kochuri. Kochuri is another kind of fried delicacy. So he was playing on the words. He said, I'm none of these. I am the other kind of bread. But yes, technically we are all Puris. So Totapuri happens to come along and he gets down on the bank of the river. He sees Sri Ramakrishna sitting there. Immediately he recognized Sri Ramakrishna as not as an avatar. He didn't believe in these things. He said he is a fit aspirant for non-dual Vedanta. So he comes and tells Ramakrishna, do you want to learn Vedanta, non-dual Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta? I can teach you if you like. You are fit. Sri Ramakrishna said, I don't know, I have to ask my mother. He said, well, then hurry up, go and ask your mother. I won't be here all day, You can go and ask and come and tell me. So he goes to the temple of Kali and then he comes back in a semi-ecstatic state and says, Mother has sent you here to teach me. So, which Totapuri probably found very quaint. He didn't say anything at that point, but he started teaching him Advaita Vedanta and initiated him into the vows of monasticism. It's interesting. He remained a married man. He was married to Ma Sharada. He took the vows of sannyasa, which normally do not go together. If you take the vows of monasticism, you give up your married state or you do not marry at all. But Sri Ramakrishna, being an incarnation, had to teach everybody. So what is a perfect monastic life? He had to teach that, and so he was a monk. But he also had to teach the majority of people in the world, how can you be spiritual in married life also? So he also was a married man, though all lifelong both Sri Ramakrishna and Ma Sarada, they remained perfectly chaste, and they led a very spiritual marriage, a life of a spiritual marriage all their life. So he became a follower of Totapuri, and he said how all day long the naked one would instruct me in non-dual Vedanta, told him to forget the world, sit in meditation, forget the body and the mind. You would think easier said than done. But for Sri Ramakrishna it was easy, because he could easily get absorbed in meditation on the Divine Mother. But what he could not do was forget the Divine Mother. So he said, every time the blissful form of the Mother, I could easily forget the world. But the form of the blissful Divine Mother would come in before me, and there I would get stuck. And then it was deep in the night, they were meditating, and he told Totapuri, I can't do it, it can't be done. Why can't it be done? And so the naked one picked up a piece of glass which was on the floor and pierced me in the forehead. Concentrate here. And he did that. The next time the form of the Divine Mother came, Sri Ramakrishna says, I took the sword of knowledge and cut the form in two, and my mind merged into the formless. So from the form to the formless. That's actually a path of our spiritual practice. When you get a mantra and God with a form, Ishta Devata, from your Guru, you come to a point in spiritual practice when you get a vision of God in that form. And that form will lead you to the formless. That's the progress. And Sri Ramakrishna merged in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the highest Samadhi. Totapuri, there was a little hut. It's still there. It's now a permanent structure in Dakshineshwar. Totapuri went outside the hut. These sannyasis, even now, they light a holy fire called a dhuni, and they sit in front of that. In the Himalayas and forests, it's very useful to protect yourself against animals and against the cold. So he sat in front of the dhuni, waited for Sri Ramakrishna to come out of Samadhi. Whole night passed. The next day passed. And the next night. And the next day. And the next night. When Totapuri went back into the hut, he found Sri Ramakrishna completely merged, oblivious of the world, merged in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And he marveled. That's something that took me 30 years of practice. Totapuri had been a monk from his childhood. 30 years of sincere, intense practice. And Sri Ramakrishna, this young man, achieves it just like that. Totapuri began to realize he's not an ordinary person. He chanted the name of God powerfully, and Sri Ramakrishna came back to normal awareness. Totapuri embraced him in great joy, and they began to spend time together. Bhairavi Brahmani was still around. She didn't like it one bit. She told Totapuri, she told Sri Ramakrishna, don't mix too much with that monk. He is dry. He has no devotion. And your devotion will suffer. Because if you mix him, Sri Ramakrishna, of course, didn't pay the least heed to her. And there were interesting incidents. Sri Ramakrishna had this habit in the evening, when the sun would set, he would say that when it gets dark, so that you cannot count the individual hairs on your hand, that's the time to start taking the name of God. So he would clap his hands and take the name of Krishna, Kali, Rama. Once Totapuri was talking about non-dual Vedanta, that Brahman alone is real, the world is an appearance, and suddenly Ramakrishna starts clapping, Rama, Rama, Krishna, Krishna, Kali, Kali. And Totapuri said to him, Kya roti thokte ho? Are you preparing chapatis, roti? In the villages, even now, in northern India, they prepare the bread over a piece of, over fire in the evenings. And they will do it this way. So Sri Ramakrishna was clapping and taking the name of God, and Totapuri said, are you making rotis? Or what are you doing? Sri Ramakrishna said, I'm taking the name of God, and you're saying I'm making rotis. Totapuri tried to pull Ramakrishna out of his devotion to the Divine Mother. See, this Maya, it's to be dismissed. Why are you worshipping the power of God as Mahamaya, as Kali? Brahman is the ultimate reality. Maya is an appearance. Forget it. As he was saying this, they were sitting together in front of the fire. The watchman of the temple came. He wanted to smoke. So he wanted some fire. And he saw these two people sitting there and there was a fire. He wanted to take a piece of charcoal from there to light his pipe maybe. And Totapuri flew into a rage because it's a holy fire, sacred fire. You can't go and light your cigarette there. He had these fire tongs, He wanted to beat that watchman. And he was a very powerful, huge man, well built. And naked to boot. So he stood up and was about to chase the watchman. The watchman fled in terror. Sri Ramakrishna burst out laughing. He was rolling on the ground in laughter. Totapuri said, "You are laughing? That man was insolent." Said, "Yes, but just now weren't you telling me that the world of appearances is Maya, it's nothing, all is Brahman? You said all is Brahman and now you're ready to beat Brahman with your..."
And that's the thing that I was going to say. It's the fact that in that story, he was making a big deal about the holy fire, but yet why partake in this illusion? Because he was talking to Ramakrishna about saying, "Why you're believing this guy, Kali, and you should do away with it because Brahman is the only real God." And well, I didn't hear the part where it said everything's Brahman except for the end here, but then the naked one, as he likes to keep saying, really got, I guess, offended by the watchman trying to get a light, but he's partaken in Maya at that point. So that's very interesting. I'm glad that Ramakrishna pointed that out. It's like, why are you doing this? You just contradicted yourself in a sense, if I understood the story correctly.
Totapuri, he was fearless. He would sit and meditate all night long. Sri Ramakrishna asked him, "You're an enlightened being. Why do you meditate so much?" And Totapuri had a brass pot, a water pot. Most wandering monks do. So he said, "See this pot. It shines because I polish it every day. If I don't polish it, it'll lose its glitter. It'll still be brass, but lose its glitter. You're enlightened. But if you do not immerse yourself in the realization, in that awareness, every day the world begins to affect you. That's why you must, like polishing the mind, keeping it immersed in the thought of God, in the awareness of Brahman." But Sri Ramakrishna had to come back to that too. He said, if it's brass, that's true. But if it's a golden pot, then that won't be true. I think what he meant by that was, for an incarnation, it's not necessary. Sri Ramakrishna is the golden pot. The rest of us, we are brass pots.
But if that's so, interestingly enough, Ramakrishna had an issue trying to remove Kali from his mind so he can focus on Brahman, the nothingness, the Atman. So is Ramakrishna, at least at this point, the golden pot? Or is he a brass pot? And then eventually we all evolve from a brass pot to a golden pot. Essentially a pot that doesn't need to be polished, because once we're in there. That's another weird thing is, I think Swami Sarvapriyananda and Swami Taratmananda has stated that once you're enlightened, you're always enlightened. But yet this teacher here is saying that even though you're enlightened, you must still practice it, because you'll become rusty from it, which I do believe. Like a lot of practices that you have, like if you play a particular sports, if you don't play that sport in a while, you'll become rusty in it. You'll start to notice if you start playing that sport again, you'll start feeling sore in certain spots because you don't work that muscle out anymore. So it's kind of like that, where you may not have to go at it very hard, but you should continue to practice so that you won't be sore from it or rusty from it.
He would sit in meditation all night long. One day he was sitting in meditation under a big banyan tree deep in the night with his little fire, and this luminous figure gets down from the tree and comes towards him. Totapuri asked him, "Who are you?" He said, "I'm a Brahmadaitya, a spiritual demon, not a bad kind of demon, but a spiritual demon. I stay in this tree and I protect this place." Totapuri was fearless. He said, Well, you are a manifestation of Brahman, as I am a manifestation of Brahman. Both come and let's meditate on Brahman. Even the demon didn't want to meditate. We have that in common with the demon. So he quickly disappeared. He laughed and disappeared from there. And Sri Ramakrishna would tell this story, and people, I guess, would be skeptical. And Sri Ramakrishna would say that, no, he does exist. I know him quite well. I have met him a number of times. And he used to tell me things. Once he told me that the English were planning to take over the temple garden because they had an ammunition dump next to it. So they wanted to take the entire land. And Sri Ramakrishna said, I was very worried that I wouldn't be able to worship my Divine Mother anymore in the temple anymore because it will become an ammunition dump. But Mathur Babu started a court case against the land acquisition. And Sri Ramakrishna says, the demon came and told me that the English would lose the case and so they wouldn't be able to take over the temple garden. And that's exactly what happened. Anyhow, so he actually does live there in that tree. The climate of Bengal began to tell on Totapuri's very robust Punjabi health. And he got afflicted by stomach troubles and he became weaker and weaker. Mathur Babu got a doctor to treat him to no avail. Totapuri didn't care because he said, I'm not the body anyway. And he would remain immersed in the bliss of Brahman. But till one night he could not remain immersed in the bliss of Brahman because of the pain in his stomach. And he thought, this body is worthless. It's preventing me from meditating on Brahman. Let me cast off this body. Remember, suicide is condemned by all religions, including Hinduism. Only in the case of an enlightened person who have clearly realized that they are not the body. If they want, they can give up the body. Sometimes they do of their own choice. Like Vivekananda himself. He sits down in meditation and he gives up the body. So Totapuri thought I would do that. That very night, he got up and began to walk towards the river. With the idea that he would walk into the river, the body would be gone, and he is Brahman anyway. He walked and walked and walked till he came out on the other side of Calcutta. The water never rising above his waist. He was amazed. He thought, Ramakrishna is right. Maya is all powerful. I can't even die. I can't even destroy the body without the permission of the Divine Mother. And he walked back again that way across the river. Sri Ramakrishna later said that it was not as big as a miracle as you would think it is, because there was a shoal under the water where the river bed was much raised. So he could actually walk across the river sometimes without drowning. That's where Totapuri must have walked. Partly a miracle too, because he could have easily put his foot in somewhere else and drowned. Next day in the morning, Totapuri went with Ramakrishna for the first time into the temple of Kali and bowed down there. He came out, he told Ramakrishna, I know who you are, and let me go. Let me go. You have kept me here. He recognized that there's this divine power in Ramakrishna. He's not an ordinary student of Vedanta. Totapuri's practice was, there's a saying among the monks in India, Ramta sadhu behta pani. Behta pani means flowing water. Water which flows is pure, it's not stagnant. And the monk who wanders is pure. Because if you settle down in a place too long, then you get attached to the people and the place and things and so on. So Totapuri's rule was he would stay no more than 3 nights in every place. He stayed for 11 months in Dakshineshwar. So then he finally left, and he never returned again afterwards. If I go on with the story of Ramakrishna, it's going to take a couple of hours more. But here is the sum and substance of it. This phenomenon was again and again recognized, that Avatara, whether it's Mathur Babu, whether it is Bhairavi Brahmani, the great scholars Vaishnava Charan and Gauri Pandit, even Totapuri, who dismissed all of this, noticed that there was something extraordinary in this young priest. Many others. Afterwards, he practiced other forms. He practiced a form of mystical Islam, a Sufi Islam, he practiced that.
Forgot to turn on CC. I've been just looking at his face, not realizing I'm not reading along with what I say.
Staying outside the Hindu temple of Kali, not worshipping Hindu deities, living like a Muslim and praying to Allah as his Sufi teacher taught him. He practiced a form of Christian mysticism and had the vision of Christ. Finally, he had a vision. Finally, the final act was he worshipped the Holy Mother, Ma Sharada. On the spring worship of Kali, at night, he called her into his room in Dakshineshwar, and with all the paraphernalia of the worship of Kali, he worshipped his own wife as the Mother Kali and offered the results of all his practices at her feet, including his rosary at her feet. That was the culmination of his spiritual practices. He had a vision of the Divine Mother, a voice which told him, stay in Bhavamukha. This Bhavamukha is an interesting concept. It's a kind of borderline. On one side is the transcendent Brahman, beyond name, beyond form, where the world disappears, where you have no sense of ego. You become one with the universe. On this side is the manifestation of this world. In the borderline is the cosmic ego. God saying, I'm manifesting as all of this. So that's a kind of way to understand where Sri Ramakrishna was for the rest of his life. On one side, he saw the transcendent. On the other side, he saw the immanent. His teachings to his students, to the many seekers who would come from now onwards, and many of them recognized him as an incarnation of God. His teachings would be, there's a golden thread which runs through his teachings. He would say the eternal Nitya and the immanent Leela, the divine play, both are true. His teaching to Totapuri, that not only is the Nirguna Brahman true, but this world, the play of Maya, Kali is also true. Don't take one and dismiss the other.
I will say I like that already, because there's a danger of just saying the object reality or transactional reality is Maya, false, because I don't know, some people could read that wrong, and I don't ever want to say that this is fake, no real reality. But I understand also in a lot of Advaita Vedanta to say, or I believe the correct word, if I remember correctly, is your dharma, which is to still, even though if this existence is false, is still to play your role. Is dharma? I think so. If I remember correctly, again, whether you're a father, son, child, mother, whatever it may be, your role in this life, you still must play it out, no matter what. Which I do, which I'm 100% for. And even as playing as this role, you can still meditate and realize, be aware of the realities of things, of who you are, or whatever it may be.
His teaching about jnana and vijnana, knowledge and going beyond knowledge also. That he would say, when you climb the house, you leave the first floor behind and the second floor and go to the roof of the house, and then you see what the roof is made of. The same bricks and mortar and cement, the entire house is made of the same thing. When you realize by neti neti, not this, you realize the transcendent Brahman beyond name and form. And then, that's where Totapuri had stopped. And then when you look back upon the world, you see all of this is also a manifestation of the same Brahman. Jnana and Vijnana, Nitya and Leela. His teaching about, when Swami Vivekananda later accepted the Divine Mother, Kali, how happy Sri Ramakrishna was. The reason he was happy was the same teaching runs through that. His teaching about Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva. Worship God in the Shiva, in the form of Jiva, all living beings. So the immanence of the divine, the same divine which you realize in the depths of meditation and samadhi, you see. When you would say simple things like, God exists when I close my eyes, and God doesn't exist when I open my eyes, what kind of God is that? Whether with eyes closed or with the eyes open, whether inward or outward, the same reality pervades everything. So there's a golden thread which runs through his teachings, which he insisted to everybody. The story continues. The great devotees come. Not Mathur Babu, of course, was there. Hriday was there. But then others came. Balaram Bose, Girish Ghosh, the great dramatist. So on other occasions, we will talk about this story. as Isherwood said, the story of a phenomenon. We are firmly convinced that just over 100 years ago, God walked again on this earth. For a short while, Sri Ramakrishna himself would say, a group of musicians comes, plays and sings and disappears. It's only much later that people don't understand who they are. That is Ramakrishna, that is Holy Mother, that is Vivekananda. And from there has come forth an ocean, a river, a raging river of spirituality, which from that little temple garden of Dakshineshwar on the banks of the river Ganges in colonial India, from there has spread this river of spirituality. We have not yet understood the depth and the profundity and the dimensions and the implications of Ramakrishna. We are only beginning to discover it more than 100 years later. I have met spiritual seekers all over the world, in India and here and other places. And in the most remarkable places, I've found Sri Ramakrishna is at the source of spiritual inspiration. I have met monks, nuns, practitioners of different orders who have nothing to do with us. But many of them, they told me, it's the gospel of Ramakrishna which inspired me. It is Vivekananda's works which inspired me. It is that which we still read and we still use it. It has become the testament to humanity that religion is true, that spirituality is true. A living testament to the reality of spirituality. The 20th century and now in our 21st century, Vivekananda said, for centuries to come, this power which has been let loose in Dakshineshwar, that will continue to work for centuries ahead and flood the world with spirituality once again. We pray to Sri Ramakrishna, to the Holy Mother, to Swami Vivekananda. May they inspire us. May they awaken the light of knowledge in our lives, jnana. May they fill our hearts with divine love, bhakti. And may it culminate in prashanti, in the profound peace of God realization in our very life. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.
Okay. That's interesting. I'm curious. I want to know specifics of his teachings now. It seems like the earlier years of his life was very sad, and of course he lost his father, and then I believe it was his older brother that took him from the house to give him kind of a sense of purpose, and then he started worshipping Kali in the temple, but he started going it seems like he's going a little crazy. Then he started doing a lot of things with his two teachers. One was a woman, nun, I believe. Can't quite remember. But believe that he was the reincarnation or avatar of God. Can't remember her teaching. It seems like it was a teaching of Kali and not Advaita Vedanta. Then his second teacher taught Advaita Vedanta to him to clear the mind, but he was struggling with removing Kali. So I guess he got a cut on his forehead to focus, and then was able to. And now, I like the fact that he says that the transactional reality is real as well as the absolute reality. I can 100% back that up. I want to 100% back that up, let me put it that way. And I was also curious as to who was his two students. Or two students, I see two people there. Who were his students? Who did he teach? I'm assuming it's those two, perhaps. Vivekananda as one of them. I don't know who the person on the right is. The one right below the light. And Sri Ramakrishna is in the middle. I assume Swami Vivekananda is on the left. And then I don't know who's on the right. How many students, disciples did he have? Or he could have had many, but were they main ones? Were there some main ones? I'm assuming Vivekananda is one of the main ones, and the person on the right there. I'm also curious as to what is his primary teaching. Is it Kali? Is it Advaita Vedanta? Or what it may be? I am now curious about that. I'd like to hear why he likes to believe that the transactional reality is real too. I mean, he just said it, but did it say the Leela, or the play, is also real? Which I would like to believe it to be real. Even this Maya is real, which is very contradicting to, I guess, Advaita Vedanta, where Brahman is the only reality, and this play that we're having, this ego, this world, everything's Maya, an illusion. Definitely got to hear about his teachings now, for sure. I don't know if it's purely Advaita Vedanta or if he has his own special take on that. Kind of like, I kind of have my special take, but I also try to keep my understanding of everything. Well, anyways, that's the end of my reaction to Avatara, story of Sri Ramakrishna, if I can speak. If you like my content, please consider subscribing, thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.